It took a long time for me to get comfortable with how I sounded singing. And I'm at the point now where I like my singing voice and I can listen to it comfortably, but my talking voice still, when I hear myself talk, I'm like, oh shit, you sound like a dick.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time in the channel, hit subscribe right now.
Liam, thank you for your time. As we're talking, we're about a week away from the release of the new EP. You've shared, obviously, a couple of songs already with everybody. So how do you live up to this moment? Is this still a special moment, or are you like, well, most people have already heard most of the songs? Like, what's your mindset right now?
Well, I mean, the promotion company that we're working with, they've, I think it's called a trickle down or a waterfall release or whatever, whereas opposed to the last time we did a release, it was all 4 songs at once. Now it's 1 song a month. So there's still 1 song that's going to be released on, I think, the 20th of May. I'm happy with it the way it sounds, and I think the band is happy with the way it sounds, and we seem to be getting a good response from everybody that hears the song. So I mean, I'm just kind of content and chugging along. Like I said, the first one was we did it all ourselves, and we just you go through CD Baby, which is an online distribution company, and you say when you want to release it, and everything just comes out, and boom, the 17th of October or whatever, and it just happens, and then everyone can kind of just take their time and pick apart. And now we're kind of dealing with radio stations, and interviews are happening, and yeah, so it's a bit different. It's a bit more involved and a bit more. And I'm kind of a lazy fuck, so it's like this whole you got to do this. Can you make time to do this interview? Can you? It's like and I hate the way my voice sounds talking too. So I'm not I've wanted to be a professional musician my whole life. Interviews are part of the process, so I can't really fucking bitch about doing an interview. But at the same time, I hear myself played back on the radio, and I'm like, I sound like an asshole.
That's not only going to be the sound of the voice. That might also have to do with what you say. I'm just saying.
yeah, you're totally right. You're totally right. It took a long time for me to get comfortable with how I sounded singing. And I'm at the point now where I like my singing voice, and I can listen to it comfortably, but my talking voice still, when I hear myself talk, I'm like, oh shit, you sound like a dick. And I probably say some things that make me sound like a dick. So yeah, it's a lot more hands-on this time around, but generating some good buzz and overall positive feedback. So I'm happy with the way it's going.
Are you able to take that step back in this whole roller coaster of like, well, the only reason that it is so hectic and overwhelming is because there is good response and people want to talk about it, people want to play your music? Can you enjoy that, or is it just is this a part you don't want to deal with?
No, that's a good way of looking at it too. And sometimes you need somebody else with an outside perspective to say something like that, and that makes sense. And like I said, I wanted this my whole life. I mean, I've always wanted to strive towards being a professional musician. This is just kind of what comes along with that. People want to talk about it. People want to hear, and it's a very, I don't know. Yeah, you can't really bitch about it. You can bitch about it for a minute, and then Jasper comes in and kind of puts things into perspective, and you go, oh yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, no, I like it, and it's fun. I mean, playing live is the best part of being a musician, and writing and recording, and it's a privilege when you pour your heart out onto paper and then put it to tape, and then people like it and want it, and you start seeing the numbers of streams coming up, and you're going, holy shit, people are listening to this. Or you go to a barbecue at a friend's house and he's got your first EP on, and you're going and it's humbling, and it's a privilege, and it's nice.
You pour your heart out, and then people seem to resonate. Now, you're not afraid to go back to your own experiences and have an autobiographical flair. Say that 5 times to your songs. Scary to kind of just, share that with everyone, because obviously the moment you release something, people will not only listen to what the words you say, but they will also put their own perspective on that, their own interpretation of that song that is very personal to you all of a sudden gets its own life and becomes very personal to people listening to it. What's that been like for you, given that the material has been so, close and emotional to you?
For sure. And I think it's kind of that weird concept where you kind of have to, like, when you are a musician and you pour your heart and soul out, and then you put it out, and like what this song means to me might not mean the same thing to somebody else, or they might interpret it differently. But you also like relinquish, like, you don't get to fucking bitch about people critiquing your music. You kind of have to expect that some people are just going to be like, this fucking sucks. And you just kind of have to be okay with that, because it's subjective and it's art, and everybody can interpret it whatever the way they want. So it's a little bit, especially with more personal songs. It's like, because you kind of show your vulnerability. It's very like, you just kind of open up and you're like, this is me, this is what I've gone through, this is how I was feeling at that time, maybe I'm still feeling this, maybe I'm not. And someone goes like, wow, that's a great song, that really helped me with this thing or this time in my life, or like, man, I was listening to that while I was driving, it put me in such a good mood. Or someone's just like, dude, this sounds like something else, man, like, did you rip this person off, blah blah blah. And it's like, hey man, thanks for listening. So yeah, it's a little bit like, because you kind of, for me, it's like you kind of just like have to take a deep breath and just go like, okay, well, I'm gonna hope for the best and hope that people really like it. And here it is. I think there's a difference with my songwriting, though. I can't remember. I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and where there's like, a lot of my influences, like, for example, one of them, Bruce Springsteen, being like a balladeer and like writing about the ghost of Tom Joad or whatever, or like working on the highway or downbound train or something, what may or may not have happened to him, but he can make a story out of something that maybe wasn't, but he knew a guy that happened to, but he can personify it and make it a personal thing. I have a problem doing that. I can't really do that. I don't know that I can, at this point in my life, and I've never really been able to do it, write a completely fictional story and make it seem real. So I just kind of write about my own personal experiences and maybe a fantasy here or there, but most of it's all fairly, pertaining to me and my experiences.
There's a million ways to label your music, and there's different elements to that and what have you. I mean, depending on which review we read, people will heavily use words like Americana or Canadiana, country influences, and sure, there's a country vibe to it, but I don't think we should ever expect you to write the song about how your horse rode off of your pickup truck and that you loved the bar and saluting the troops and all that kind of stuff. There is that element, that genuity, let's say, to it, but all these different flavors make it possible for you to fit many bills, and you've played with many different artists, very different styles of artists as well. When you play your music, do you see different reactions from different crowds?
As in, like, positive versus negative, or?
Well, like if you support a more country-leaning artist or a more blues rocky artist, like, do you adjust your own music to that?
Sometimes there will be, like, I mean, there was one song on the previous EP called Sour Grass, and it's got much more of a country, there's, heavily not pedal steel, but slide guitar and piano, and a more southern. And I think we've axed that out. Where did we play? We played this one festival last year. It was in Nanaimo. Was it called Backyard Fest? And it was cool, but we kind of knew the vibe. It's in Nanaimo in a backyard. We walk in, it's kind of got this Lord of the Flies thing going on. There's punks everywhere, stray dogs, chicks, with no tops on. There's a pretty eclectic crowd going on, babies running around, but like a very punk, Yeah. And I was like, maybe we just axe Sour Grass for this one, because we only have a 30-minute set anyways. We don't need to play that one. Let's keep it kind of upbeat. let's keep it this way. I mean, maybe they would have liked it, maybe they wouldn't. It was a nice response. But yeah, sometimes I wouldn't call it catering, but like knowing your audience too. Like, are we gonna sit there and do, okay, the first song's a rocker, the second song's a rocker, and then the next 4 songs are ballads and like country shit if it's a fucking biker crowd. Like,
Right.
you can keep a ballad or 2 or, you know, whatever in there, but like, you kind of got to, you know, read the room. And that's kind of a fun thing too, where you can have your set list drawn up and think it's really good, and then you kind of see the reaction, the vibe of the crowd, like, okay, there's just kind of like claps like this, or everyone's fucking really on board, and you kind of go like, let's get rid of that one. Let's just skip to that one. That one's too slow. It's like the crowd's not into the slow shit. They're liking the fast stuff. Or it's like, okay, we played 3 fast ones. Now let's kind of bring it down a bit. Like, and then you see people kind of dancing and slow dancing. See, it's kind of like a lot of it can be spontaneity or spontaneous and just kind of, and I like that. That's the part that I like. And the guys that I play with, they're like that too. I mean, Andrew Lang, our guitar player, I don't think ever plays the same solo over, and he'll cut. There's like a basis for it, but he'll try and do something new every time, which I like as well. And that's kind of a Jerry Garcia response too. Just like try and make it new every time. It keeps it exciting. You don't really know the crowd that's going to go in. You might have this like, so, I mean, yes, you kind of go in if you've got a bit of a general consensus of what it's going to be. Like last time at Lake Town Rock or whatever the festival was, we opened for John Fogerty and Big Sugar. And it was like, okay, this is like an older crowd. Everyone's drinking. Like, we're going to keep this fucking shit upbeat. We're going to play one fucking ballad. And it went over great. And we're in and out, and it was fun. But yeah, you try and prepare as best you can, and then you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants.
Now, you mentioned Andrew. When I look at all the band photos that you guys have posted on socials and so on, it always, I don't know if it's just me, I don't know, seeing stuff that's not there, but it always comes across as the 3 of you, the 3 others, are trying to keep a straight face for not starting to laugh with something stupid that Andrew just said. That's kind of what the photos look like. Is there any truth to that?
Oh yeah, we all try and shit talk the other person and try and make, like, there's nothing that's off limits, and we're always trying to get a rise out of one another. That's the one nice thing, is that when we get into a room, laughter is a huge part of the process. Like, everyone is joking, everyone's laughing, and you know, we try and keep it like that, because I mean, that's, I think, the hardest I've ever laughed is with those guys. Someone says a joke, someone quotes a movie. When we were doing our last, was it this one or the last one? We were in the studio and we kept because we all really love the movie The Big Lebowski, and we
Best
kept
movie of all time,
to
obviously.
Yeah, it's great. And we just kept doing quotes and shit like that. And the producer's like, "What the fuck are you like? Are these quotes from a movie?" We're like, "Yeah, it's The Big Lebowski." And he's just like, "Oh, I haven't seen that in 20 years." We're like, "Well, catch up."
The fuck is this?
Obviously, you're not a golfer.
I think there's also like a level of like, we're all, I don't want to sound like egotistical, but we're all fairly non-pretentious people. We all know our role. We all know what we're capable of. So like the whole like Mr. Cool guy, like the badass posing is kind of just played out and kind of goofy in us. So like we just try and, you know, these are the only faces we got. We're going to work with them. So just try and look as good as you can. And if you fucking smile, then you fucking smile. That's a good thing.
Run away from your husband. Come and meet me in Kentucky. Now have all.
But I mean, Andrew was my first roommate when I was 17 years old. I moved out and moved in with him. He was playing in a band in Victoria. They would sneak me into clubs and, you know, put a leather jacket on me and aviators and give me a guitar. And I was, I think, 15 or 16 at the time. And that's kind of how I cut my teeth and got my upbringing, was from those guys. And same with Luke. When Luke was playing with us, I've known Luke since I was 15. He was dating my girlfriend's older sister, and he played in a touring band. So I got to grow up with all these guys who are like my bigger brothers. And like,
Right.
It's cool how it kind of came back to that.
If you can leave by midnight, you could be by 3 a.m.
Everybody does different things these days, and some people only focus on singles, others on EPs, others full albums. if we look ahead for you, what's next? Like, because you are a storyteller, and so far you prefer to tell your own story, as you shared. Is this approach what you want to continue, or are you like, I do want to tell a bigger story on a full length next, or what's the plan?
I think, okay, so while we're shooting a video, I think on the 17th for Circle on the Sun for this EP, and that'll kind of be, so the EP release, the video, that'll be kind of the wrap up for this project. I've been writing since I've gone through some changes in my life, so I've probably got about 6 new ones that I've written, and I'd like to get in there and do probably like 8. And there's a couple, I always have songs that like I start writing and I just kind of come to a block and I can't. So this next one will kind of be, I think, a bit more about what's happened in my life the last year. I hope, but sometimes you take songs to a band and it just like, this one's not sticking, and you just gotta like just put it on the back burner and like we'll use it. And that's happened so many times. We're like, oh, let's try that other one that we like played 2 years ago, and then like for whatever fucking reason it comes to fruition, but you've already done the album that it was supposed to be on. So yeah, I would like to do a full length. But honestly, it's like we're independent and I pay for everything myself. So I gotta like, I work full time, I own my own company, and I'm paying for everything. So it's, and you know, an EP was always feasible because it costs, you know, $3,000 or whatever, $4,000. But then, you know, to do a full length of 8 or 10 songs, like that's going to cost more money, and that's fine. But like, you know, it's just a bit of preparation. But the main thing is just, I just want to keep recording. And if it's an EP again, then it's an EP again. If it's a full length, then it's a full length. I mean, I would love to do a full length and just shoot videos and tour and record. But we'll just see what happens. I think forcing any process is going to make it non-genuine. I think people can always tell when something isn't real.
Sunday train, I can dance with you forever. Just step me right.
You know, you hear about these bands like the Stones and the Beatles, and like how they were getting their start back in the day, and they had to release a single every month. They had to write a single, like a hit song, and release that every month. How the fuck do you do that? You know, I can't imagine that. They were obviously very good at it because of the 2 best bands in the world, but like, I'm like, no, I can't force anything. I can't. It's like, what do they say about love? It's like, if love is like a fart, if you have to force it, it's probably shit.
Liam, you're releasing this EP just in time. You mentioned barbecues a few times now, so your EP is coming out just in time for all those Canada Day barbecues coming up, and a lot of people will be listening to it. And yes, you might have to do a few more interviews, especially as you keep on your journey of writing, playing, recording. But it's good to see that the momentum is building as well. I'll keep my fingers crossed for more dates, and I hope you do come out to the east side as well, so we get to see you in Toronto. And until
Lived
then,
in Toronto for 7 years, man.
there you go.
I love that place.
There you go.
I'd love
We
to
need
come
some.
back. Yeah.
We need some. We need some Moondogs in Toronto. So we'll
Okay.
keep our eyes open for that. Liam, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you get to enjoy this release cycle to the fullest in between those interviews.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate your time too, man.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.